Hello, and welcome to the Kenny Mauck Show. Kenny is an author, speaker, artist, and songwriter. You can find out more about Kenny when you go to kennymauck.com. Here now is your host for this podcast, Kenny Mauck, author of his new book, Leaving Your Life Imprint.
Well, it's great to be here today on the Kenny Mauck podcast, and we are excited to be with Tracey Lynn Russell. I didn't even know your middle name, but I've learned it since.
I'm impressed.
Yeah. Hey, okay, let's talk a little bit about the obvious elephant in the living room, the COVID.
Right. Oh my goodness.
And so here's some things I want to get you started. I know you can get. Tracey Russell is so exciting. She is. The heart of the story is
right.
What Tracey's all about. We're going to talk about it. We have a kindred spirit because I'm about story as well.
Right.
And so we have this kindred spirit. But I kind of read this, and this will get us going. Some people don't agree with the state opening. That's okay. I get this from my friend. Be kind.
Right.
Some people are still planning to stay home. That's okay. Kind.
Right.
Some people are scared to death and second wave of COVID. Be kind. But some people are ready to get out, get their job back, and just go to the beach. And that's okay too, because be kind. And so this thing keeps going down about being kind. Some people are wearing masks, some aren't. But it's all about, to me, I want to leave something during this time period of how are we as Christians and how are we as people, Tracey, how are we leaving an imprint during this really crazy time? So I'll let you take on, kind of take over from there. What's going on in you when you're thinking about your own heart of story, and how does this all fit and doesn't fit?
Yeah, well, I thank you so much for asking me, because this is a difficult story, Kenny. I mean, we are living a strange story, and one that obviously the words are being used, unprecedented, new normal. I mean, this is just not a story that any of us have lived in our history before. So I think the first thing we all need to do is agree that this is a difficult story. And with that being said, we all have a perception to story. And I think that's one of the most important things I've learned in studying story, is that we all perceive the story of our life differently. We perceive our story through our emotions, through our thoughts, and really through our actions. So depending on where someone's at in life, they're really filtering this story, this new story, in many different ways. So I love what you just said. There was like 9 different ways you just said be kind to people, right? Think of how many different ways people are perceiving the story right now. And so I think, I was trying to have this conversation with my brother the other day, and he said, no, there's a right and wrong. There's fact, there's science. And I said, yes, but there's so many perceptions. There's all these people. And so we cannot look at this story through a black and white filter right now. There are many filters to the way we see the story. And so we do have principles for all stories as Christians that we can apply, but this one's really tough. So I'm glad that you started off by saying that, all those different versions.
Well, kids videotape. They're videotaping what is normal, what is abnormal.
Right.
And we as adults need to remember, whether we have grown children or smaller children, it's the same thing. They're videotaping. How do I handle this pandemic, mom, dad, sister, brother, friends? And so they're looking for something to say, okay, this is one thing I could hold on. I watched mom, I watched dad, I watched my friends hold on to this thing. Christ is obviously an important part of that. But when you can't go to church, that doesn't remind you as much.
Right.
So all these things are there, you have to go back to the deep roots, right?
Right. Absolutely.
And go, what matters, right?
Right. I was thinking about that the other day, Kenny, because I don't think there's ever been a time in my life where I've not been in church this long. And I mean, I know, different times you go through seasons where you may miss a couple weeks or whatever, but in my life, there's never been this big of a gap, and I'm feeling it spiritually. So, when we're talking about imprint and what's going on, part of resilience and part of a resilient story is admitting that there are trials, there's hard emotions, there's hard thoughts going on, and there's hard actions going on right now. I mean, we're not going to do this all right, all up front, and just breeze through a situation like this,
So how
but
do
we
we
can
capture?
learn.
So how do
Pardon
we
me?
get through this moment? What do you think? I was looking at your thing about having a journaling. When they
Yeah,
contact you on your podcast,
right,
there's a journal that you're kind of not letting them download. And that's so
right,
prevalent to what my thing is. At the end of each chapter, I'm like, hey, on living your life imprint, write down, right? Because
right,
this is part of your story that you need to keep, right?
right. Right. And I think that's so important. What you just said is that's really the art of reflection. And so the art of reflection is journaling and writing down, no matter what story you're in life, there are ways that we can look back, look in, and look forward. And so that skill and that art of really looking back at our story, of how God's helped us in the past, looking in at our story right now, what's going on with COVID, and then looking forward to what do we want to learn in the future. That is the heart of what we can teach our children in terms of our resilience, in terms of even being okay to say, you know what, we didn't handle this right, but we're going to do this in the future, because I know a lot of families are getting hit really hard right now. And I know one of the side effects of quarantine is if you're in a family with difficult situations, it's all bubbling up to the surface. So, Kenny, I'm getting a lot of calls from people all over the country that were already in difficult marriages. And now this is making it worse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That we're already in a lot of transition. And now this is putting so much pressure on mom, dad, kids. And so I guess the first thing I want to say is just to validate this is not a normal story given the fact that we're in a very unprecedented time. It's okay to have a difficult story in life or two, but we can still learn and grow from that story. So, just giving people a ton of grace right now, I think is important. Like your beginning, be kind. You don't want to wear a mask, be kind. You want to wear a mask, be kind. I think that principle is so good.
I also feel like it's important we write letters of encouragement and to our kids, to our
Mm-hmm.
friends, to people that that are similar faith, people that don't know the Lord. I think it's a great time to reach out to people because they're listening, right? I mean, what other
Right,
better time to grab somebody's attention right now and
right.
have them be still and know that God can be right there with them, but we can be there too by encouraging them, right?
Right, definitely. I mean, it's interesting that you say that because some of those little ways of building relationship we have taken for granted, that it was easy access to people, that we could go meet somebody for coffee. And so what you're saying is the art of connecting with people through the written word, through notes, cards, letters. That's valuable. I mean, I even think of things I'm seeing on Facebook where there's never been a more important time for our voices to be heard, for our words to be shared with people who need to hear them. And I have a lot of friends that have taken this time on the internet, on Facebook, and they're voices of encouragement and voices of connection. And I think that really shows leadership right now, and that's making an imprint on people's lives, taking every opportunity to communicate during
I was
this
looking at
time.
your kids. There's Chase, 24, Holt, 21, Trey.
Right.
You had those three boys. Then you had that girl, Faith. That was
Yes.
18. And I was reading a little bit about what happened, with your situation on one of your sites about her just kind of feeling the little deleted, but
Right.
debilitated just to go, hey, I did all this work, right?
Right. Yeah, it's been hard. So in our family, what's been really difficult, and I don't know if you're hearing this in yours, is all the roles have changed like instantly overnight. So here I am, this mom, and I used to be a stay-home mom and just kind of focused on the kids, but now I'm running a business ministry and a podcast and all these things, and she's going to school, and her dad works out of home. Now everybody's home, everybody's working. It's crazy, I know. And I would look in her little room and see her, with her little teachers. And, for a while there, it was really a challenge. But, one day I do remember walking in her room and just drawing on a little piece of paper and being like, Happy Daughter's Day, and going out and getting her a little thing that we used to do together on the way to school, a little thing from Panera or whatever with my gloves and my mask on, just so you know. P.S. I was honoring the rules, but I did go to Panera. But you know, it is hard. It's been hard on them. So we just had, this is interesting, Kenny. We just had a drive-through graduation for 8th grade for her last night. So all the cars were in the parking lot, and one kid would walk forward with their mask on, grab their award, and jump back in their car, and everybody was honking, and making the best of it. And you know, I took a videotape of, as we left, all of her teachers at this really awesome school, Capistrano Valley Christian, were standing in line with noodles, hitting the cars as we drove through, you know, like the big tunnel of love. And I just thought, this is a memory we'll remember the rest of our lives. Like, this is what you talk about, is these life imprints and part of history just happened.
Okay. So I got to feed this story with you. So my wife has her birthday. It's a decade birthday, so I won't mention which one. But you know, so cool. I got a call a few days before. There was a caravan of cars that came down our street, and she was so moved and touched. Here's like, you know, 25 cars to 30 cars coming down the street, leaving cards, and just watching her melt, you know, and going, this will never happen again. She couldn't touch her friend.
Right.
They showed their love and care by simply, and I mean, the neighbors were like, what is all the racket? They were honking horns. People have bullhorns, you know, happy birthday, we love you. And just, you know, just thinking that will never happen again, but we're making the best of it.
Yeah, we're making the best of it. And honestly, those kind of moments are so special, and they're going to be cool memories that pop up that might be once in a lifetime kind of memories. But when people grab those moments in the history of their family, it's pretty special. Like, you know, that people care enough about her that you'll never forget the birthday, you know, parade where people dropped it off.
And friends, you know, it's just one of those epiphany moments. And so that's what I'm trying to say is, we don't have to look at this as a glass half empty, you know,
right?
The glass half full. God, what do you want?
Right. Right. And that's another principle, is God is in charge of the story of our lives. And so, you know, I remember, Kenny, when you and I talked, you were telling me a little bit about your history. And I'll never forget when you told me about the name of the ship that brought, you know, your family over here. And then they named a son after the name of the ship, right?
Yes.
And so you think about the things going on in COVID right now, where there are children being born, where there are incidents happening in families, and there will leave a life imprint in the history of our lives. Even in a difficult story, God is leaving signs and symbols of his grace all around us. He's leaving family stories, you know, markings of his love all over our life. And
what do you want to leave?
What do I want to leave in this story, or what do I want to leave in general?
And when we all get to, you know, when we all get to say goodbye to this world and hello to a wonderful world that Christ has prepared for us for centuries and millions of years, what is it you want to leave here that would matter and last beyond your lifetime?
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, I think you and I share this so much with the power of story, but I feel like what God's called me to do is, I pray there are 100,000 women empowered in the story of their life for Jesus Christ on this earth. That 100,000 women, you know, I can see an army going out of women that are ready to share their story and the power of their testimony. Because, Kenny, I also see that the times are short. Life is short. This coronavirus has shown all of us that in a moment's notice, everything can change. And so I believe that God's story needs to keep going forth in this world. And I don't care if it's on Facebook, Twitter, if it's on Instagram, on our podcast right now, in your book, Life Imprint. I mean, whatever it is, when we put a drop in the bucket of our story for God's kingdom on this earth, there are people on the other side that are going to be deeply affected for his kingdom, and it will advance. And so, you know, it's been exciting for me to see a lot of people jumping into this urgency of needing to start sharing, needing to start writing. And so that's kind of what I've been doing too.
Dr. Tim Clinton and I, when we shared it in a podcast together. We both love this scripture. Lord, teach us to number our days.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Make each moment count. I'm
Right.
always preaching that to my kids, my wife, and everybody. I said, Link, you know what? We just had somebody pass away yesterday morning, a dear friend, same age as me, everything else, and he's gone.
Wow.
Like that, a
I
dear
know.
friend, and we both, lamented that all day yesterday, and now we're, he's a believer, so we're rejoicing in his beautiful mansion up there. But at the same time, we realized we got to make opportunities count here.
Right. We really, really do.
Don't waste it.
Yeah, no, don't waste it. And, the other thing is, I was talking to a girl the other day about a really difficult marriage story, and she likened herself to Rahab. And I don't know if you remember Rahab with the wall of Jericho. And and that she was a part of that wall coming down. And so I was thinking about how when we share our story and when we live for God, we're part of the walls coming down around other people. We're part of breaking down, the enemy's advance in this world. We're part of breaking down barriers, prejudices, divisions, racial walls, whatever the walls are. But when we're living every day for God's story and we're sharing that story, we're literally we're like pushing those walls down. And I believe that God's kingdom is going to advance on this earth. And there's not a wall, there's not a coronavirus, there's not a regulation, there's not a mask that can stop the power of God's story moving forward in this world. You can even share that story with the mask on or off your face, Kenny. It doesn't matter. You can do it in a car line going through, there are so many creative ways I've seen Christians just loving other people.
Wouldn't it be great if during this time, God used something horrible for something good, and that is to bring people to the saving knowledge of his grace.
Right.
His mercy.
Right.
Empowering gift to make us realize that we have time to build legacy, just like he did at the cross. He built legacy that would last beyond lifetime. And it's
definitely
we need to realize each person that we come in contact with, whether it's the grocery store person or it's the pastor of the church or whatever it is, take advantage of those opportunities and speak life.
Yeah.
Kindness.
Yeah.
Joy. Because this is the opportunity. People are open and their eyes are open, their ears are open for truth and for freedom.
Right. My son, my oldest son, Chase, was working as a bouncer before this. And he said when coronavirus, he's putting himself through school, and when coronavirus hit, he said he was in an alleyway taking out the trash of this establishment, and an older gentleman went in the alley and started bawling his eyes out. He was so terrified at all this. And my son walked up to him, and here's this 24-year-old kid, and he said the man collapsed in his arms. He was so terrified because he was in that age category of someone who's at risk. Here he is losing his job, and my son was able to pray for him and witness to him. And I thought, wow, God, you can use anything. These are moments where, not just the walls are collapsing, but people are collapsing. Like people are losing their finances. People are, the fear of death is escalating. Yeah. And so we have the hope. We have the hope that this is not the end of the story, Kenny. This is like just preparing us for the beginning, right? So Christians have such a way to reach out. And even on my podcast, I did a call-in show from around the country. And I had a doctor's wife tell me that he can tell the difference between Christians and non-Christians that walk in his office just by the hope that they have in that moment, that death and life, no one would want illness and no one would want to intentionally put themselves in harm's way, but they're not afraid. They're not afraid of death because they have hope. And so
that's great. When you think about that statement that you make, that you cling to the heart of the story, right?
Right.
The heart of the story is are we realizing that each day we can have impact like your son did with people? And that's what I pray for. And guess what happens? When you pray for that, God presents opportunities, I found. Whether it's the lady that was didn't have enough to finish up her grocery, was running short, I'm giving money. Or if it's a guy that's been over the gas can realizing I can only do so much because I've lost my job and filling up the rest of the tank. Whatever that is, begin to pray and ask God to put you in a place to speak life.
Right.
Tracey, life, literally life during this time today.
I know. I'm actually being challenged because I reach out more to communicators that know the Lord. So it's more, this time has been more about empowering them to go out and like get ready and share your story. But I also work with women that are in really difficult stories and they're Christians. And so during this time, I was not expecting Kenny to write a marriage book or to do marriage coaching at all. So I signed up. I've been doing training to be a leadership coach, and I really felt like God has given me something called the story ladder, and I coach people on how to share a message that influences others. But when I started hearing about China, I started getting emails from women across the country in really difficult marriage stories. And I had just talked to my business coach, and she's like, well, you don't want to coach women on marriages, do you? And I go, no way. But I kept getting the emails. And suddenly a woman reached out to me again, and I said, well, I'll start a group. And she was like, absolutely. So I have 5 women all across the country right now in a marriage coaching group that got started just because of what's happening with coronavirus. I didn't plan that, but I felt like God was saying, take care of my people and the ones that are living a painful story right now. And we'll get to the communicators. We can do, in God's time we'll get there. But that was my little way of realizing, wow, because of technology, because I already had Zoom capability, I have women meeting every Thursday night, and we're going through and we're talking about how to move forward with resilience, how to grow, and how, the most exciting thing is when we do live a painful story and we process through it and we journal, and that there's actually studies that show post-traumatic growth happens, that we can, have stronger relationships in the future. We can have a deeper walk with Christ. We can have, deeper understanding and meaning moving forward because of what we've all been through. So
what I love about you, Tracey, is that you've lived through this yourself.
Yes.
I've read a little bit more about your own story, with you and your husband, and
right.
And just thinking, about the imprints you're leaving, I can just see your kids going, Mom, thanks.
Oh, well, that's awfully sweet. They also say,
thanks, Mom. Thanks for praying and believing for your marriage, for us. I think those are the precious things that I can see, and I know there's so many more, but it's evident you were going to fight for your family.
Yeah, I honestly believe that, when you talk about the heart of the story, that Jesus Christ is at the heart of my story. And that, I came up with the heart of the story because, I talk about the heart, the head, and the hands. So I talk about, your heart full of emotions, and, the heart. The head is kind of our thoughts and, our ideas. And then the hands are really, the practical things we do. But really a story, Kenny, has to start in the heart. And so, understanding the deepest part of who we are and the way God created us is really the heart of everybody's story. And so I named it that because, sometimes as Christians, we want to tell people what to think and we want to tell people what to do. But really, it's down deep. It's talking from the heart. And, when I was living a difficult story, it was people willing to be authentic, transparent, vulnerable, take down those walls, and just tell me what it was like to love God on a deep level in a hard story. And so there's so much value in just learning from these times that we're going through and being okay to be not okay and perfect. It's okay because God's teaching us in those. So.
Well, I think about, and I know we've got to close here pretty soon, but the nail prints of Jesus' hands, he gave it all. He didn't hold anything back, right?
Right.
In the chapters of his life, hold it back. He just said, "I'm giving it all." And
Right.
because I know ahead of time that my love is going to live beyond this lifetime. My presence is going to live beyond this lifetime. Your sons, your daughters, they have purpose, they have meaning because of what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I agree with you. I know we get started a little late, but I always love talking to you because you have that kindred spirit about story and
Totally.
leaving something like, imprints in people, and my kids, my grandkids, realizing that they're not going to forget dad or pop
No.
because I'm sharing the love of Jesus, and that's the most important thing I can do. If all else fails, the richness of my life, I mean, God's blessed me financially, but if I lost it all, the richness of my life is not in things, it's in the people.
Right.
And
That's right.
people that I have the great opportunity to meet and love on and love with.
Yeah, and I love how you said that the more you tell stories, the more the kids come in closer to you and want to sit on your lap, because really a story is the most powerful way we can touch people's hearts, we can send information into their heads, and we can inspire them into action. And so just sharing our stories and it's just a powerful way that God has wired us to make sense and to understand ourselves and others. And so that's a gift that lasts forever. And I see your book on your shelf above your head, Kenny. I see that. Oh, there it is. It's right there. Yeah. I know. I just appreciate who you are and modeling that for men, because I think sometimes it's even harder for them because they feel the push and the drive of the world and the responsibility. I mean, my husband has been working 24/7. I know so many friends' husbands that are just getting crushed right now with the weight of what's happening. And yet we're still all writing that story. We're still all looking for God's story. So, I really appreciate what you're doing for your family and for men to know their story, and taking time for that is really important too.
Tracey Russell, you have imprinted my life today and the life
Thank you,
of many
Kenny.
people who are going to hear this podcast and be thankful that you're speaking into their life. So
Thank
you
you,
for your
Kenny.
time. We're so honored to have you today, and we want to have you back and to talk, and hopefully we'll get a chance to share with you as well. But
Wonderful.
it's been great, and so we'll just close it there and just
Awesome.
say let's get beyond COVID and start living
Awesome.
our story.
That's right. And we'll live a kind story from here on out.
God bless.
You too.
You've been listening to The Kenny Mauck Show. To learn more, go to kennymauck.com. There you can find information about all of the platforms you can listen to this podcast on. You can order a copy of Kenny's book, Leaving Your Life Imprint, at kennymauck.com. That's Kenny, MAUCK.com. In his book, you'll discover the keys to unlocking your true story. You'll find that these imprints are a sacred treasure chest of meaning, purpose, and understanding for you and your family. You can order a copy of Kenny's book, Leaving Your Life Imprint, at kennymauck.com. Also, while you're online, you can book Kenny for your next speaking engagement. His inspiring message will be sure to engage and touch the heart of your audience at your next conference, church event, or corporate party. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another edition of The Kenny Mauck Show.